guys. This is Anne Marie coming at you as the anti HR lady. And today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about steps that you should take to avoid ending up in another discriminatory hostile work environment. And I wrote a blog post about this, which you can find the link in bio, but I just want to say a couple words on this subject because I personally experienced being in a discriminatory hostile work environment multiple times. And for us, and when I say us, I'm speaking specifically to Black women, it's not a matter of if you're going to end up in a discriminatory hostile work environment. It's just a matter of when and whether you know the signs when it occurs and whether you know what to do to exit as expeditiously as possible with some coin in your pocket on the way out the door. However, I want to talk a little bit about what happens after that. What do you do to make sure you don't end up in a similar situation again? And this is something I had to figure out for myself. And it doesn't mean that if you do all these things that I'm mentioning that it won't happen, because it can still happen, because the fact of the matter is America is a society built on anti-Black racism. And as Black women and being Black and a woman, you're kind of at getting the double or triple whammy. Um, so it doesn't guarantee, but it does lower the likelihood. So, couple things I would urge you to consider um, in order to avoid ending up in multiple discriminatory and or hostile toxic work environments is, first of all, do your homework. I think too many of us treat the job search process as a very kind of passive process where we submit our resume and then hope someone calls us for an interview, and then whoever gives us an offer, we just take it. I would really urge us, especially Black women, to take a more active and intentional approach to the job search. When you see a job being advertised by an organization, do some homework about that organization before you even apply. Get on Glassdoor, get on Indeed, get on Inside Voices, which is a platform specifically for people of color to leave feedback about employers, and find out what former and current employers are saying about the work environment. And if you see people saying that it's a bad work environment and giving examples of things that have happened to them, take it seriously and believe them. Now, you may still decide to apply for that job, but the next thing you should make sure you do is that when you talk to a recruiter or an interviewer, that you ask questions specifically about the feedback that you've read. I would say if the feedback is particularly, if you see a pattern of people talking about bullying, toxicity, hostility, employers not being transparent, HR being a problem, stay away from that organization, right? Now, if you see people say a one-off person make a comment, make a note of it and ask questions of the recruiting person and the hiring person for that job before you actively engage with applying, right? Don't just apply and hope that what you're reading isn't true. The best predictor of future behavior is past and current behavior. So if you see people saying that it's a bad work environment, it's a bad work environment. Move on. Secondly, is when you get to the interview process, ask questions. Don't just answer questions. You also have questions that you ask about the work environment. Ask about the work environment, ask questions about work-life balance, ask questions about diversity, equity, and inclusion, ask questions about their hiring record of people of color. Ask questions. I have a whole list of questions in my blog that I recommend that you consider asking. Don't be afraid to ask these questions. If you feel that the recruiter or the person interviewing you has a reaction, a negative reaction to the questions that you ask, that's a red flag that tells you that's probably not a place you want to work. A good organization should want you to ask questions about these subjects. And if they don't like that you're asking those questions, that should tell you what kind of work environment it is. I think that it's important to really engage with these process in an active way and also realize that when you accept a job, you're not accepting a life sentence. If you get in there and things are not going well, at the first sign of issues, start documenting And as I always explain, you should be documenting from the first day, but take an active, engaged attitude towards your job and always consider it a process that is not permanent. You're not going to be in there for the rest of your life. And if you're not happy there, you can leave. You're not a tree, you can move. So don't feel that if you get in an environment and it doesn't feel right to you, that you're stuck. A lot of us behave as if whatever job we have is the only job we're ever going to be able to get in our lives. There's a type of desperation that a lot of us treat our jobs with that we really don't need to. You need to treat this as you have skills, knowledge, and ability that you are selling on the open market to someone. They're buying it. In exchange, they agree to pay you and give you certain benefits and a certain type of work environment. If you don't get what you expect, you have a right to leave. If they're not getting what they expect, they will definitely get rid of you. So you need to think about it in that way and be very passive in terms of how you feel about your job. Don't be too attached to any job that you're afraid to leave. The other thing that I'm going to say is too many people that I work with as clients and some potential clients do not have boundaries. If you don't have boundaries for yourself, someone else will set them for you. Too many of you accept really ridiculous treatment from the first day. You have to set boundaries in your workplace. That means you need to be clear about what your work hours are, what you are expected to do as your job. If you have a job that pays you for 40 hours a week, you should not be answering emails and engaging with your workplace on the weekends, after hours, or on your day off. Too many of you are trying so hard to prove your value, which they should already know because they hired you. And too many of you want to be liked and loved so much that you allow people to basically shit all over you, and then you're angry when they do it. Stop letting people disrespect you and not have boundaries with you in the workplace. This is something I have to say to clients a lot. You have to have boundaries if you want people to have boundaries. So if you are taking a day off to take care of something, they can email you if they want to. You don't have to answer. They can call your cell phone if they want to. You don't have to answer. And when you go back to work, if they're like, well, we tried to reach you, you can just remind them, well, I was off yesterday, but I'm happy to help you today. What do you need? Have some boundaries. Be clear about your expectations, about how your employer is supposed to treat you, so that you can hold people to those expectations. So make sure that you do your homework before you even apply for a job. Make sure that you ask questions that are important and pertinent to you about the work environment and work-life balance. And make sure you ask those questions in the first interview round, as well as your interview with whoever it is that's going to be your manager. Ask those questions so you know what kind of people you are dealing with, and you have the ability to back out if you don't like the way that they respond. Pay attention to people's body language as well as what they say, and make decisions. Don't be desperate. Set boundaries. Be clear about how you will allow yourself to be treated at work, as well as in your personal life, but especially at work. Have boundaries and stand on those boundaries, and be very clear about what those boundaries are. This is very, very important. And last but not least, if you are going into a new work environment and you've come out of a hostile work environment, a discriminatory hostile work environment, I really would urge you to get professional help. I think a lot of us need to be in therapy. PTSD is real for Black people, especially Black women, and it is important for you to get help. Otherwise, you're going to take the things that you are carrying into the next job. You end up having anxiety, being hypersensitive about every little thing because you're constantly expecting someone to do the thing that you experienced again. Get some help. I really recommend get a therapist. Consider getting a coach as well, and make sure that you deal with your own stuff so that you can move on from the experience that you've had. It is very, very devastating and traumatic to deal with discrimination and hostile and toxic work environments, and it's something that you have to acknowledge when it happens to you and actively seek to find a way to not just move on from it, but to really understand it so that you don't end up in the same situation in the future. So if you are, if this resonates with you, please read the blog post that I wrote. Please pay attention to what I'm saying in this video and be very intentional And what I'm sharing here is something you should be doing whether you've been in a hostile work environment or not, but especially if you have been and you really don't want to end up in another one. These are things that you have to seriously think about and attend to so that you don't end up in another situation where you're dealing with discrimination and hostile toxicity at work. If you are a person that is dealing with a discriminatory, toxic work environment, or you believe that you are, please feel free to book a discovery call with me and let's talk about how we can get you out of there, possibly with some coins in your pocket. All right? I am Anne Marie. I'm the anti HR lady. As I always tell you, HR is not your enemy, but they're definitely not your friend. I am. I hope this information is helpful for you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.